So regardless of all of this, like, let's not diagnose our partners. That's kind of where I went with this, just in my own planning for the episode here. Let's not diagnose our partners. So maybe we can look at polyvagal theory, and it gives us an explanation for, not just who we are, but who our spouses are. Okay, fine. And maybe that gives us a sense of understanding them, and maybe even a sense of predictability. Maybe you can actually utilize that in some sort of attempt to help. But it's also potentially just a label that we can now fling at our significant others, or our families, or our friends, or whoever it is. So I would be really reluctant to encourage you to view people in that way. It might be helpful. It can be, but it also could not be. I mean, this stuff could be just like a DSM diagnosis. In my opinion, these things can be used inappropriately. I think it could sound very similar. So when you're arguing, or you're in your own aggressive fight state, maybe when you're in that state and you're attempting to communicate with your significant other, stuff like, "Hey, you're a blankety blank, you're a jerk, go get help," might come out of your mouth, right? Just similarly, I don't think they're the same thing, but I think the intent is the same thing. You may also say, "Hey, you're a narcissist, go get help." That's a diagnosis, but it can be used wildly inappropriately. Similarly, you could easily say, "You're in your fight state, you jerk, go get help." What's happening is we can take these, whether it's a diagnosis or a spot on the polyvagal ladder, these could easily become parts of judgment and blame. The beauty of the polyvagal theory is that there really is no judgment to it. It just is. It's a new concept, new paradigm for viewing ourselves and then building a new narrative for ourselves. So there's no inherent value there. There's no judgment, there's no blame. But you can take these things and then use them and weaponize them in your arguments with people that you care about. So that's my concern. And again, I'm not picking this up from Nicole. I'm not saying that. This is just in general. This is my concern in general. So I would encourage people in general to stay away from diagnosing the people they care about. And whether you're diagnosing through the DSM or you're diagnosing through the polyvagal ladder, or just diagnosing through comments like calling people names like jerk and asshole and stuff, whatever the labels, let's not call it a diagnosis, let's call it a label. No matter what your paradigm for labeling somebody is, this can be weaponized in that way. The message is that you're the problem. You have the diagnosis. You're abnormal. You're not treating me right. There's something wrong with you. So being able to see the polyvagal theory and apply it to others, I mean, as a therapist, that's what I do. So it has its uses on a professional level, absolutely. As a parent, I utilize my knowledge of polyvagal theory with my kids. There's a use there. And yeah, I do. I'll utilize it in my marriage as well. But the angle is, where am I on my polyvagal ladder? How much co-regulation am I able to give to somebody? Not, you're the problem, this is where you're at, you fix yourself. No. It's me. I'm going to apply this to myself and build myself a new narrative. I'm going to put the responsibility on myself to do what I can as part of this dyad, which will hopefully help the other person or the family as a whole, but myself first. So diagnoses can be misused no matter what your paradigm for diagnosis is, and including diagnosis can be misused in the therapy space, but not in the non-therapy space. They absolutely can be flung around at each other haphazardly and very inappropriately. So that's my concern in general when it comes to stuff like this. I would encourage us to not diagnose each other. It doesn't seem to go well.